Welcome to Sassafras Valley.
Well, good morning. I'm working on a project and I've rough cut all of the parts that I need to go in it. Now, it's a piece of furniture, and for those of you who've made furniture, you already know this. Of those who don't, it's absolutely necessary that each part be precision cut, and that all of the widths of the parts have smooth edges and that they're exactly the right size. Because when you put together frames from those parts, they will end up either having gaps or the part will be out of square when you assemble it. So the very best way I know to get the edges of them exactly the right size, within just a few thousandths of an inch of each other, is to use the tapered disc sander. So I have all the parts arranged here, and they're arranged by size. All of these here are 2-inch. Okay, this is 1.25 inches. This is 1 1/8 inches, and this one part here is a 1-inch part. These are 3.5. Okay, the lengths are not cut yet, and I intentionally do not cut them exactly to length to start with, because when I'm done sanding with them, I'll recalculate exactly what the width of the parts are, so that their lengths of the parts that attach to them will add up to the exact amount that it takes to make the piece. But at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and set this up and sand these 2-inch parts first, and then I'll follow reset and sand the other sides. I'll do it incrementally. Each side of the part will get a pass, so I'll measure in between and see how much additional material I can take off so that I don't take too much off. And I'll get them down size. Maybe take 2 passes, may take 3, I'm not for sure, because when you rip parts, the edges may not be exactly perfectly true to start with. So there's only so much that I take off at a time. So I'll just nibble away at it with the sander until I get them exactly the width I want. But at any rate, I'm going to set it up. I have it set up so that I have the dust collector attached, and the conical disc or tapered disc is set at an angle. The table is set at the proper angle to it so that I have perfectly square edges. I've already checked it for square. This here is a setup part that I'll run through and use it to keep track of how much I'm taking off of it. So I'm going to put this up, and we'll just watch them go through the sander for a little while. Well, you notice that these last three boards here, started to get some burning from the sander, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to make another pass because actually I've got these are outside boards, and I'm not going to worry about that. For the outside back, they won't show. They'll be in the back. They're just pretty much rough boards that I cut up to make that frame with. I'll go ahead and get set up, and I'll do the other sizes here. But first I'm going to change that disc out. And I may be able to move it. See here where it's burnt down in here, in this area here. See how it's burnt there? I may be able to move it up and use the rest of this paper up here to do the others. I'll have to see. I don't have as much cone from here to here as I have whenever I'm back down on the full body, but I don't have much more to sand. I may be able to make that work. I don't want to really change that disc out and have to redo the whole setup. But anyway, got that part done, and I'll get these others sanded, and then we'll move on to some other part of the project. I do want to mention that the advantages of doing this on the sanding disc, the jointer disc, is that if you do it over here on the jointer, you can get the sides pretty straight, get them pretty even. You know, you have to kind of be careful and make a good pass on them. Problem is that you don't always necessarily get them parallel. So I have passed them through the planer before to make that last pass, but I find this gives me the best, smoothest finish on these sides. And when you lay them down side by side, if you have to do a glue joint of any kind, you're going to get a smooth, even joint. So enough about that. I'm going to move on to the next part. Okay, so I have all of the female cuts finished for these are the backs, rails, and the stiles. This is the side panels, the rails and the stiles, and this is the doors on the front, the rails and the stiles. So now I need to make the male cut that fits into those, and they'll go on the ends of the rails. Each end of the rail will have a cut on it that will marry up and fit in here. So to make that, this cutter is set up so that if you take the OG cutter and invert it or flip it, and the bearing and the dado slot cutter, and you rearrange them so that the dado cutter's on the bottom, the bearing is in the center, and the inverted OG cutter is on the top, it will be a perfect mating part to fit into the slot and the OG that's already cut in the other parts. Anyway, sounds more complicated than it is. I should be able just to flip them, and there are some spacers and some things that I'll have to keep in order, but it should be pretty easy to cut them. So then all I have to do is get it so that the height is adjusted correct up and down so that it matches up with the lip and they lay flush when they go in there. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and make that change. I always get these mixed up. I have to look at my little diagram here to know which one's which way they go. I don't do it frequent enough to keep it in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and get this down to where it's almost snug. And then I'll arrange those cutters so they're offset from each other. Like to have them about 90 degrees, that way the cutters are all hitting at different points, and also helps keep the bit in balance, because obviously with that much steel on there, the balance will be critical. So now I can take it and adjust it so that it's approximately right and get ready for my first cut. I want this edge of this aligned with this stile here, and I can feel that it's still hitting it, so raise it just a touch more, and then I'll turn this cutter around and see if it's aligned also. That's pretty close. That's worth making a trial cut with and see how close it aligns. So I'll put that back in and we'll run our setup piece through it and see. So I have all the adjustments made, and I'm going to go ahead and cut these stiles. What you do is you cut them to the exact length that it takes to make the tenon portion on the end here, and that will align with the groove on the face here. Okay, you cut them to the exact length, and then you just put your groove on each end. One thing I want to point out is that instead of using the miter that comes with the top here, I prefer to use a wooden block. It's nice and solid, it's perfectly square, and it gives some backing so that I don't get chip out. So, see all of this stuff in here? All this stuff's going to interfere with your cut, so clear all this off.
The president. Still need one more line.
So turn on your dust collector and cut a 22 3/8 and come back and trim the other one exactly perfectly square. Okay, you're always going to square against this fence here.
Yes.
Okay, because this is purposely set in so that if the board is a little bit crooked, okay.
I get the cut.
I got one down here I'm questioning. That's perfectly square, so I'm going to turn it around like this. All the rest of them should be okay. All right.
You good to go?
Yep.
This video is getting pretty long. I think at this point I'll just cut it off. I really was glad that Caden was able to come over and help me out with some of this, but at any rate, we got most of the frames that go around the panels finished. There's a little bit more work to do, but anyway, that gives me 5 panels. There are 2 doors, 2 sides, and 1 back panel. So, like I said, I'm going to cut it off right about here, and in the next one, we'll go ahead and put them panels together, because I really need to assemble them so that I can do the rest of the, make the rest of the parts that it takes to put this thing together. I do appreciate you watching, and you have nothing less than a wonderful day.